Far away from Earth, past 100 stars, there was a great hall made of light and metal. This was the Galactic Council. Here, the leaders of many alien species met to talk about peace, trade, and war. The hall was old. It had seen 1,000 years of history. But nothing that happened here had ever felt like this day. At the center of the hall stood a large screen. On it, one word blinked in red letters. Earth. No signal. The room was full of noise. Alien delegates from many worlds were talking at once. Some were angry, some were afraid. A tall alien named Vorn, from the planet Psi, banged his hand on the table. "This is not possible," Vorn said. "A species cannot just stop talking. They eat, they sleep, they argue among themselves. There is always noise, always signals. Earth has given us nothing for 3 days." Next to him sat an older alien named Counselor Thess. She was calm, but her eyes showed worry. She had studied Earth for over 20 years. She knew humans better than most beings in this hall. 3 days is not long for most species, Thess said slowly. But for humans it is strange. They are the loudest species we have ever watched. They fill space with messages, music, arguments, and jokes. And now? Nothing. Not even their old radio signals from Earth are reaching us. A murmur spread through the hall. Many species here had never even met a human in person. They knew Earth only through data and reports and rumors. But everyone in this galaxy had heard the same thing about Earth. Humans were noisy. Humans were curious. Humans never stayed quiet for long. So when Earth went silent, it did not feel small. It felt like the beginning of something terrible. To understand why this moment mattered, we must go back, not far, just 3 days before this council meeting. Earth had always been considered a young species by the rest of the galaxy. They had space travel for only 200 years. They had no large fleet, no powerful weapons that scared anyone. Most species saw humans as harmless. Interesting, but harmless. There was a small alien listening post near Earth's solar system, hidden behind one of Jupiter's moons. It belonged to a peaceful species called the Wren, small blue-skinned beings who liked to study other cultures instead of fighting them. Their job was simple: watch Earth, record data, and send weekly reports to the Galactic Council. A young Wren officer named Doss was on duty that night. He was bored, as usual. Watching Earth was normally quiet work. Humans posted videos, sent messages to satellites, argued on their internet, and slept. Nothing exciting ever happened, but that night, something changed. At exactly 03:14 human time, every human signal stopped. Not slowed down, not weakened, stopped, all at once. Doss blinked at his monitor. He tapped it twice, thinking it was broken. "Central system," Doss said into his communicator. "I am seeing 0 output from Earth. Repeat, 0 output." There was silence on the other end for a moment. Then a voice replied, "Confirm signal loss. Are you detecting equipment failure?" Doss checked his machine again. Everything was working perfectly. "Negative," Doss said, his voice shaking a little. "Equipment is fine. Earth has gone completely silent." At first, no one on the council believed it. Humans had never gone quiet before, not even for an hour. So the assumption was simple. Something was broken, somewhere. Maybe a satellite failure. Maybe a technical problem on Earth's side. The Wren sent a small, unmanned drone closer to Earth to check. It never returned. Not destroyed. Not attacked. It simply disappeared from all tracking systems the moment it entered Earth's outer solar system. This was the first sign that something was very wrong. Back in the council hall, Vorn slammed his hand on the table again. "Send a diplomat ship, a real one, not some tiny drone. Let us hear directly from the humans." Counselor Thess nodded slowly. "I agree, but send it carefully, and send someone who understands humans well." The council chose a respected diplomat named Ambassador Kell, from the planet Dorith. Kell had visited Earth twice before for peaceful trade talks. He liked humans. He found them funny, strange, and full of energy. He did not believe anything dangerous was happening. He believed this was simply confusion, and he wanted to help fix it quickly. Kell's ship, a sleek silver vessel called the Silent Wing, launched from a nearby station and made its way toward Earth's solar system. The trip would take about 6 hours. During the journey, Kel recorded a message for the Council in case anything unusual happened. "This is Ambassador Kel," he said into the recorder, sitting calmly in his chair. "I am approaching Earth's system now. I expect this to be a simple misunderstanding. Humans are known for their strange habits, but not for hiding. I will make contact soon and report back." He smiled a little as he said this. He truly believed it. 4 hours later, the Silent Wing reached the edge of Earth's solar system near the orbit of Neptune, and then its signal stopped too. Not slowly, not with warning. 1 second, Kel's ship was transmitting normally. The next second, nothing. No distress call, no wreckage, no explosion. Just silence, exactly like Earth itself. Back at the council hall, everyone watched the empty screen where Kel's signal used to be. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Vorn said quietly, "Something took him. Something took our ship, without even the smallest sound." Thessa's eyes were fixed on the screen. Her voice, when it came, was low. "No, Vorn. I do not think anything attacked him." "Then what happened?" Vorn asked. Thess was silent for a moment before answering. "I think Earth asked him to stop." The hall went quiet again. It was a strange thing to say, and yet somehow everyone understood what she meant. Word of the missing ambassador spread quickly across the galaxy. Within a day, dozens of species knew that Earth had gone silent, and that a diplomat ship sent to investigate had vanished without a trace. Fear began to grow in every corner of Council space. Some species, like the small merchant race called the Fen, began quietly moving their trade routes away from Earth's side of the galaxy. They did not want to be near whatever was happening there. Other species, more aggressive by nature, saw this as an opportunity. A warlike race called the Kroon, who had always disliked humans for refusing to join their military alliances, spoke openly about this being the perfect time to strike first. "If humans are hiding something," said Kroon General Dork during an emergency session, "then it is not weakness. It is preparation. We should attack now, before whatever they are building is finished." This idea shocked many in the Council. Attacking a species with no clear reason, no proof of hostility, went against the very laws the Council had followed for centuries. But fear does strange things to people, and to alien species too. Counselor Thess stood up to speak. The room slowly quieted to listen to her because everyone knew she understood Earth better than any other being present. "We do not attack a species because we do not understand them," she said firmly. "We have studied Earth for over 100 years. We have watched them argue with each other more than with any other species in the galaxy. We have watched them build hospitals, write songs, and fight over things that seem small to us, but mean everything to them. They are not hiding weapons. They are hiding something else." "Then what?" Vorn asked. "What could make an entire species disappear from every channel we have?" Thess paused. She looked at the red word still blinking on the screen. "Earth, no signal." "I do not know," she admitted quietly. "But I believe we are about to find out. And I believe when we do, nothing in this galaxy will be the same again." While the Council argued, something else was happening. Something none of them could see. On Earth, deep below the surface in massive underground facilities built over the last several years, humans were not hiding out of fear. They were preparing. Engineers worked without stopping in enormous factories carved into mountains. Metal parts the size of buildings moved along assembly lines. Scientists checked calculations again and again, making sure every detail was correct. Soldiers trained in simulated battles, learning to fight in ways no alien species had ever seen from humans before. No message left Earth. No signal escaped its atmosphere. Every satellite, every radio tower, every communication line had gone dark on purpose. Humanity had a reason for this silence. But that reason was known only to a small group of leaders, scientists and soldiers, who had sworn to keep it secret until the exact right moment. One of these leaders was a woman named General Elena Cross, the head of Earth's new defense program. She stood in front of a massive control room, watching numbers and reports scroll across dozens of screens. Behind her, Hundreds of engineers and officers worked quietly, focused entirely on their tasks. A young officer approached her nervously. "General, the aliens sent another ship, just like the last one. It's approaching the edge of our system." Elena did not turn around right away. She watched the numbers a moment longer before answering. "Let it come," she said calmly. "Do the same as before, no harm, no contact, just redirect it quietly and hold it until we are ready." "Yes, General," the officer said, and hurried away. Elena finally turned to look at the huge screen behind her, showing a map of the solar system. Small dots represented ships. Some were alien scout ships that had gotten too close over the past few days. All of them had been quietly stopped, without violence, and held in place far from Earth so no signal could leave. She sighed and looked at the calendar on the wall. Only a few more days remained before their plan would be complete. "They are afraid now," she said softly to herself. "Soon they will understand why we went silent. And soon they will see we were never hiding out of fear." She turned to another officer nearby. "Status on the fleet?" The officer smiled slightly. 98% ready, General. The remaining ships will be finished within 72 hours. Elena nodded, her eyes steady. Then in 72 hours, the galaxy will finally understand what humanity has been building. Back on the Council, the fear only grew stronger with each passing hour. More scout ships that came too close to Earth's system disappeared from tracking, though strangely none of them were ever found destroyed. They simply vanished from view, as if pulled gently out of sight. This confused the Council even more. If Earth wanted war, why not attack? Why not destroy the ships that came near? Instead, ships simply vanished, unharmed, as far as anyone could tell. Vorn, still angry and afraid, argued for war almost every day. General Doric of the Kroon grew louder in his warnings, gathering more support from smaller frightened species who wanted protection. But Counselor Thess held on to her belief. Something was coming. She could feel it. But she did not believe it was an attack. On the 70th hour since Earth had gone silent, an emergency session was called. Every major species in Council space sent a representative. The hall was more crowded than it had been in decades. Vorn stood to speak first. "We have waited long enough," he said. "It is time to decide. Do we act, or do we continue waiting in fear?" Before anyone could answer, an alarm began to ring through the hall. A young technician rushed to the main screen, his hands shaking as he adjusted the controls. "Counselors," he said, his voice trembling, "we are detecting something. Large signals appearing near colonies along the edge of Council space." The Council fell silent, all eyes turning to the screen. "How large?" Thess asked quietly, though something in her voice suggested she already feared the answer. The technician swallowed hard before answering. "Thousands of ships, Counselor, and still counting." Vorn's face went pale. The hall, once loud with argument, was now completely silent, everyone staring at the numbers rising rapidly on the screen. Thess stood slowly, her eyes fixed on the growing count. "It has begun," she whispered. And far above 100 worlds, the sky began to change. "Would you like me to continue with part 2, where we finally see the fleet appear and learn why Earth really went silent?" 70 hours earlier, before the silence, before the fear, before the Council even noticed anything wrong, humanity's story had already started, quietly, in a small room deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. It began with a discovery no one on Earth wanted to make. Dr. Amara Singh was a scientist who worked for Earth's deep space monitoring program. Her job was simple: watch the edges of the solar system for unusual activity. Most days, nothing happened. Small asteroids passed by. Old satellites drifted through space. It was quiet, steady work. But one night, everything changed. Amara was reviewing data from a deep space telescope when she noticed something strange, a faint signal coming from far beyond Pluto. moving in a pattern too steady to be natural. She sat up straighter in her chair and adjusted the telescope for a closer look. What she found made her blood run cold. It was not one object. It was hundreds of small ships, cloaked and silent, sitting just outside the edge of the solar system. They were not moving toward Earth. They were watching, waiting, like a predator studying its prey before deciding when to strike. Amara did not sleep that night. She sent the data directly to her supervisor, who sent it further up the chain, until it reached the desks of Earth's highest military leaders. Within days, a small emergency meeting was called. Only a few people were invited: top scientists, senior military officers, and a handful of world leaders. This was General Elena Cross's first appearance in the story, though at the time she was simply one colonel among many, sitting quietly at the back of the room listening carefully. The meeting was led by an older scientist named Dr. Marcus Webb, the head of Earth's Deep Space Defense Research. He stood before a large screen showing the data Amara had discovered. "These ships," Webb said, pointing to the screen, "have been sitting at the edge of our solar system for at least 3 years. Based on old data we went back and checked. They are cloaked, silent, and clearly not friendly. If they wanted to talk, they would have done so already." A general in the front row spoke up. "Do we know who they are? Which species?" Webb shook his head. "Not yet, but early scans suggest they are not part of the Galactic Council fleet we've had contact with before. This looks like a separate group, possibly hostile, possibly planning an invasion." The room went quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. Earth had made peaceful contact with the Galactic Council years earlier, exchanging basic information and small trade agreements. But the Council was not the only power in the galaxy. There were other groups, other empires hiding beyond the light of the stars the Council controlled, and one of them, it seemed, had found Earth. "How long before they attack?" someone asked. Webb sighed. "We don't know. Could be months, could be years. But if they've been watching us this long without acting, it likely means they are waiting for something. Maybe reinforcements. Maybe the right moment." Colonel Elena Cross, sitting quietly until now, finally spoke. "Then we use that time," she said. "If they are waiting, so should we. But we don't wait weak. We wait ready." Every eye in the room turned to her. She stood, walking toward the screen, her voice steady and calm. "We have technology from Council trade agreements. We have Earth's own research, decades of work that we've kept mostly hidden even from the Council. If we combine both, quietly, without anyone watching, we can build something the galaxy has never seen. Not from a species they call weak." Dr. Webb studied her for a long moment before nodding slowly. "It would take everything we have. Every resource, every mind, and it would need to be completely secret, even from our allies." "Then that is what we do," Elena said firmly. And so, the plan began. Over the following months, Earth changed in ways the rest of the galaxy never noticed. Deep beneath mountains, hidden inside old military bases, and built into remote islands far from public eyes, massive new facilities rose. Officially, governments told their people these were new energy projects or advanced research labs. In truth, they were the beginning of the largest shipbuilding project in human history. Every nation on Earth, despite their old arguments and disagreements, came together in secret for the first time in history. This was not about one country protecting itself. This was about all of humanity, standing together against a threat none of them could face alone. Scientists worked around the clock, combining old Council trade technology with Earth's own advancements in engineering, energy, and weapons design. Progress came slowly at first, filled with failures and setbacks. But Elena Cross, now promoted to general, pushed everyone forward with calm determination. "We are not building ships to start a war," she told her engineers during one late-night meeting. "We are building ships so no one ever thinks about starting one with us again." The first prototype warship was completed after 8 months of work. It was small compared to what would come later, but it worked. Its engines were powerful, its shields strong, and its weapons more advanced than anything the Council had ever shared with Earth. From that first ship, thousands more followed. Factories that once built cars and airplanes were quietly converted to build ship parts. Workers who once built bridges and skyscrapers now helped construct massive shipyards hidden deep underground and on the far side of the moon, away from prying eyes. It was the largest secret project in human history, and somehow, impossibly, it stayed hidden. Meanwhile, the mysterious ships at the edge of the solar system remained still, watching, waiting. Amara Singh, the scientist who first discovered them, was brought onto General Cross's team permanently. Her job now was to track the unknown fleet's every movement, searching for any sign that they were preparing to attack. One night, almost a year into the project, Amara rushed into Elena's office, her face pale. "General, I think they're getting ready to move," she said, breathless. "Their formation has changed. They're gathering closer together." Elena studied the data carefully. How long until they could reach Earth? "If they start now, maybe 2 weeks," Amara said. "Maybe less." Elena's jaw tightened. She looked at the calendar on her wall, calculating quickly in her head. Her fleet was not ready yet. Not fully. They needed more time, more ships, more preparation. "We can't let them see how close we are to finishing," Elena said. "If they realize we know they're there and that we're building something to fight them, they might strike immediately before we're ready." "So what do we do?" Amara asked. Elena thought for a long moment before answering. "We go dark. Completely dark. No signals, no communication, nothing leaving Earth that they, or anyone else, including the Galactic Council, can track. If the enemy thinks we've disappeared, maybe they'll wait, trying to understand why instead of attacking." It was a risky plan, and Elena knew it. Going silent would confuse and frighten the Galactic Council, an ally Earth had spent years building trust with. But she had no other choice. Every day counted now. "Prepare the blackout protocol," Elena ordered. "Full communication shutdown starting tonight." That night, across the entire planet, every radio tower, satellite, and communication system controlled by Earth's government quietly went silent. To the outside galaxy, it looked as though humanity had simply vanished. In truth, humanity had never been more awake. Every hidden shipyard doubled its efforts. Every soldier increased their training hours. Every scientist worked without rest, pushing to finish the final ships needed to complete the fleet. The unknown enemy fleet at the edge of the solar system noticed the sudden silence too. For a while, they seemed confused, unsure whether Earth had been destroyed by some unknown disaster or was simply hiding. This confusion, exactly as Elena had hoped, bought Earth more time. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council, unaware of the true danger hiding at the edge of the solar system, only saw Earth's sudden silence and grew afraid, exactly as we saw in Part 1. They sent Ambassador Kell to investigate, not knowing that Earth's silence was protecting them all from a threat far greater than misunderstanding. When Kell's ship crossed into the solar system, Earth's defense systems detected it immediately. General Cross was informed right away. "It's a Council diplomat ship, General," an officer reported, requesting contact. Elena studied the report carefully. She understood immediately what this meant. The Council was growing worried about Earth's silence, worried enough to send someone to check. She sighed deeply. As much as she respected the Council, and Ambassador Kell personally, from their previous meetings, she could not risk exposing their location to the mysterious enemy fleet, or revealing how close Earth was to finishing its plan. "Redirect his ship quietly," Elena ordered. "No contact, no communication. Hold him somewhere safe until we're ready to explain everything. And if he resists?" the officer asked. "He won't," Elena said confidently. "Kell is smart. He'll understand we mean no harm even if he doesn't know why yet." Just as she predicted, Kell's ship was redirected without any struggle, gently guided into a hidden holding area far from Earth's system, safe and unharmed, but completely unable to send any signal back to the Council. As the days passed, more Council scout ships arrived, each one following the same fate as Kell's, quietly redirected and held safely away from view. Elena knew this was causing fear to grow within the Council, but she had no choice. Revealing too much too soon could put all of humanity, and possibly the Council itself, in terrible danger. Back in her office late one night, Elena Cross sat alone, reviewing the final reports on her fleet's progress. Dr. Webb entered quietly, holding a tablet with the latest numbers. "We're almost there, General," Webb said. 98% of the fleet is complete. The remaining ships will be finished within 3 days. Elena nodded, relief showing briefly on her tired face. "And the enemy fleet at the edge of the system?" "Still holding position," Webb said. "Still watching, still waiting." "Then we finished just in time," Elena said quietly. Webb hesitated before speaking again. "General, once the fleet is ready, what's the plan? Do we attack the unknown enemy first before they can move against us?" Elena thought carefully before answering. "No. We show strength first, not aggression. We reveal ourselves to the Council, calmly, clearly, appear at their borders as we agreed, and let them see what humanity has built. If the mysterious enemy watching us sees that Earth is no longer alone, no longer easy to attack, they may reconsider their plans entirely." "And if they don't reconsider?" Webb asked. Elena's eyes hardened slightly. "Then they'll learn very quickly why they should have." 3 days later, the final ship of humanity's new fleet was completed. Over 100,000 warships stood ready, hidden across secret shipyards on Earth, the Moon, and Mars, waiting for the signal to move. General Cross stood in her control room, watching the final countdown numbers tick toward 0. Amara Singh stood beside her, along with Dr. Webb and dozens of officers, all silently waiting for this moment they had worked toward for over a year. "Fleet status?" Elena asked. "All ships ready, General," an officer confirmed. "Awaiting your order." Elena took a deep breath, thinking of everyone who had sacrificed so much to reach this moment, thinking of the Council's fear, the mysterious enemy's patience, and humanity's long, quiet struggle to protect itself without anyone knowing. "Then it's time," she said calmly. "Let the galaxy see what we've built." She turned to the communication officer standing nearby. "Send the signal," Elena ordered. "Move the fleet." Across Earth, the Moon, and Mars, tens of thousands of engines ignited at once, lighting up the darkness of space with a brilliant, powerful glow. Ships that had been hidden for over a year rose together, forming into perfect formations, ready to make humanity's presence known to the entire galaxy. And far away, near the borders of Council space, alarms began to sound as sensors detected the impossible. Thousands of ships, then tens of thousands, then more. The Galactic Council, still deep in fear and confusion from Earth's long silence, was about to witness something none of them had ever imagined. Humanity was not hiding out of weakness. They were preparing to reveal their true strength. The alarms in the Council Hall did not stop ringing. Councillor Thess stood frozen, watching the numbers climb on the massive screen in front of her. 10,000 ships. 20,000. The count kept rising, faster than anyone could process. Vorn, still pale from the earlier shock, gripped the edge of the table. "This is not possible," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "No species builds a fleet this size in secret. Not even the oldest empires in this galaxy have this many ships." The young technician at the main console was shaking as he read the updated numbers. "Counselors, the count is now past 50,000. Sensors are picking up new ships every few seconds." The hall, once full of shouting and argument, had gone almost silent, except for the technician's trembling voice and the steady beep of the alarm. General Dork of the Kroon stood up sharply, his face twisted with anger and fear. "This proves what I have been saying. Humans were never harmless. They were planning this the entire time, hiding behind their friendly reputation while secretly preparing an army large enough to threaten us all. We do not know their intentions yet," Thess said quickly, though even her calm voice now had a slight tremor in it. "A large fleet does not mean an attack." "Does it not?" Dork snapped back. "Tell me, Counselor, what peaceful species builds 100,000 warships in secret?" What peaceful species goes silent for days, captures our diplomats, and then reveals an army capable of destroying entire fleets? This is not diplomacy. This is preparation for war. Murmurs of agreement spread through parts of the hall. Fear was spreading fast, and fear made even calm minds start to doubt what they once believed. Tess looked around the room, seeing worried faces from a dozen different species all staring at the screen, watching the number of Earth ships grow higher and higher. 60,000. 70,000. She needed to say something, anything, to slow the panic before it turned into a decision the whole galaxy would regret. "Listen to me," she said, raising her voice enough to be heard over the growing noise. "I have studied Earth for over 20 years. I have seen their history, their culture, their mistakes, and their achievements. Humans fight among themselves constantly, yes, but they also protect each other fiercely. If they built this fleet, it was not without reason. We must find out why before we decide anything." "And how do you suggest we find out?" Vorn asked, his voice tight with stress. "Every ship we send near Earth disappears. Every diplomat we send is captured. They have given us no answers, only silence, and now this army." Tess did not have an immediate answer. She stared at the screen, watching the numbers climb past 80,000, feeling the same fear everyone else in the room felt, though she tried desperately not to show it. While the council argued, sensors across dozens of border worlds were picking up the same terrifying readings. Reports flooded in from every direction, each one adding to the panic spreading through council space. On a small mining colony near the edge of human space, workers stopped their tasks and stared up at the sky in confusion as bright lights began appearing in formation, far in the distance, moving steadily closer. A young miner named Bex, working on the colony's surface, tapped his colleague on the shoulder and pointed upward. "What is that?" Bex asked, his voice filled with nervous curiosity. His colleague, an older alien named Trask, squinted at the sky, his four eyes narrowing as he tried to focus on the distant lights. "I don't know," Trask admitted, "but whatever it is, there's a lot of it." Colony sensors soon confirmed what the council already knew. Human warships, moving in careful, controlled formation, were approaching from multiple directions, spreading out slowly across council territory, though notably not attacking anything in their path. This detail confused military analysts across the galaxy. If humans intended war, why move so carefully? Why avoid firing on colonies or ships they easily passed by? Reports began reaching the council hall describing the same strange pattern. "They're not attacking," a council analyst reported through the main screen, addressing the panicked room. "Ships passing near colonies are simply moving through, adjusting their course to avoid populated areas. No weapons have been fired. No colonies have been damaged." This news did little to calm the room. If anything, it deepened the confusion and fear. "Then what are they doing?" Vorn demanded. "An army this size does not simply travel through space for no reason." No one had an answer. Far from the chaos of the council hall, on a quiet border world called Yessa Prime, an old alien farmer named Oren stood outside his home, staring up at the sky with his grandchildren beside him. The sky above Yessa Prime had turned a strange, shimmering white, filled with countless points of light moving steadily in formation. It was beautiful, in a strange and frightening way, like watching a storm approach from a great distance, knowing you could do nothing to stop it. "Grandfather," one of his grandchildren asked, tugging gently on his sleeve, "are we in danger?" Oren looked down at the small alien child, her eyes wide with worry, then back up at the sky, where the countless human ships moved silently overhead, casting long shadows across the fields. "I don't know, little one," he admitted honestly. "But look closely. Do you see any fire? Any explosions?" The child studied the sky carefully before shaking her head. "No," she said quietly. "Then perhaps," Oren said gently, though uncertainty lingered in his voice, "they are not here to hurt us." He wanted to believe his own words, but even he could not fully shake the fear building quietly in his chest as he watched the endless formation pass silently overhead. Back in the council hall, the debate had grown louder and more desperate. More species had joined the emergency session remotely, their leaders appearing as holographic images around the room, each one adding their voice to the growing chaos. A representative from a peaceful trading species called the Lyra spoke first, her voice trembling with fear. "We have no military strength to defend ourselves against a fleet this size. If humans intend war, our species will be destroyed within hours." Another representative from a small but proud warrior race called the Threx spoke next, his tone firm and defiant. "Then we prepare to fight, alongside the Kroon if necessary. We will not simply wait to be destroyed." More voices joined, some agreeing with Dork's call for immediate action, others pleading for patience and diplomacy. The hall grew louder, more chaotic, fear driving each new voice higher than the last. Counselor Thess closed her eyes for a moment, trying to think clearly despite the noise surrounding her. She thought back to everything she knew about humans, every report, every study, every conversation she'd had with human representatives over the years. Humans were emotional, yes, sometimes reckless, but they were also deeply protective of those they cared about, and remarkably logical when facing true danger. If they had built this fleet secretly, spending enormous resources and effort, it was not likely out of simple aggression. Something had driven them to this. Something serious enough to justify keeping it hidden even from their closest allies. She opened her eyes and stood again, her voice cutting through the chaos with sudden clarity and strength. "Enough!" she shouted, silencing the room. "We are letting fear control our decisions. If we attack now without understanding, we risk starting a war we cannot win, against an enemy capable of destroying us easily. An enemy who has, so far, shown remarkable restraint." "Restraint?" Dork snapped back angrily. "You call hiding an army of 100,000 ships restraint? I call it caution," Thess replied firmly. "If they wanted war, Dork, we would already be dead. Every colony they've passed remains untouched. Every ship they've captured has been held safely, not destroyed. Does that sound like an enemy preparing for war, or a species preparing to explain themselves carefully without triggering panic?" The room grew quieter, her words slowly sinking into the frightened crowd. "Then what do you suggest?" Vorn asked finally, his voice calmer now, though still filled with worry. Thess took a deep breath before answering. "We wait. We watch. We do not fire first. If humans wanted to destroy us, they've had countless opportunities already. Instead, they've shown patience and control, even while captured ships and cut off from communication with us. I believe they are approaching not to attack, but to be seen, to be understood." Dork clearly disagreed, his expression tight with anger and distrust. But he said nothing further for the moment, sensing the room's mood shifting slightly toward caution rather than immediate aggression. As the debate continued inside the council hall outside, across dozens of worlds, the human fleet continued its steady approach, moving closer to the heart of council space with calm, unwavering precision. Aboard the lead human warship, a massive vessel called the Ascendant, General Elena Cross stood on the bridge watching detailed reports scroll across her screen, tracking the fleet's steady progress toward their final destination. Beside her stood Amara Singh, now promoted to Chief Science Officer for the fleet, and Dr. Webb, overseeing final technical checks as they approached Council territory. "Status report," Elena said calmly, though the weight of the moment was clear in her voice. "Fleet formation holding steady, General," an officer reported. "No hostile actions detected from any Council forces. Sensors show heavy communication traffic within Council space. They know we're coming." Elena nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on the star map ahead, showing their final destination clearly marked, a heavily populated Council system where their message would finally be delivered. "Good," she said quietly. "Let them see us clearly. Let them understand we are not here for war, but we are more than ready if war is what they choose." Amara glanced nervously at the growing distance markers on the screen, watching their fleet steadily approach the edge of Council territory. "General," she asked quietly, "do you think they'll listen? Do you think they'll understand why we did this?" Elena considered the question carefully before answering. her eyes still fixed on the star map ahead. "I hope so," she admitted honestly. "But whether they understand or not, humanity needed to be ready. We spent too long being seen as weak, harmless, easy to ignore or dismiss. Today that changes one way or another." She turned to her communication officer, her voice steady and clear. "Prepare the message," Elena ordered. "As soon as we arrive, we speak directly to the council, calmly and clearly. Let's show them exactly who we are." The officer nodded, quickly preparing the recorded message that would soon be broadcast across every screen in council space. The message humanity had waited so long and worked so hard to finally deliver. As the fleet drew closer, the tension inside the council hall grew unbearable. Every representative watching the star map with a mixture of fear, curiosity, and uncertainty, waiting to see exactly what humanity intended. Finally, after what felt like hours of anxious waiting, the young technician's voice broke through the silence once more, trembling with a mixture of fear and disbelief. "Counselors," he said quietly, "the human fleet has arrived." Every eye in the hall turned toward the massive screen, watching as the full might of humanity's secret fleet appeared clearly before them. Countless ships stretching endlessly across the void of space, silent, powerful, and utterly unstoppable. The Galactic Council, and the entire galaxy watching, held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The screen inside the council hall showed a sight no one there would ever forget. Human ships filled the space above the council's most important system, stretching out in every direction farther than the eye could see. They were not scattered or messy. They moved in perfect formation, calm and controlled, like a single living thing made of 100,000 parts. No weapons fired. No colonies were touched. The ships simply arrived, and then they stopped, forming a massive, silent wall across the sky. Inside the council hall, no one spoke. Even Vorn, who had shouted the loudest for days, stood frozen, staring at the screen with wide eyes. General Dork's hand rested on the table, no longer clenched in anger, but simply still, as if even he understood that anger would not help him now. Counselor Thess stepped closer to the screen, her heart pounding, though her face remained calm. She had believed, for days, that this moment would come. Still, seeing it with her own eyes was different from imagining it. "They're not firing," she said quietly, almost to herself. "Not one shot." The young technician at the console adjusted his controls, his voice shaking as he spoke. "Counselors, we're receiving an incoming transmission. It's from the human fleet." The entire hall turned toward the screen, every representative from every species holding their breath, waiting. "Play it," Thess said firmly. The screen flickered, then changed. A single figure appeared, standing calmly on the bridge of a massive ship. It was General Elena Cross, dressed simply, her expression steady and serious, but not unkind. The hall grew utterly silent as her voice began to play across every screen in council space, reaching billions of beings at once. "People of the Galactic Council," Elena began, her voice calm and clear. "My name is General Elena Cross. I speak on behalf of the United People of Earth." She paused briefly, allowing her words to settle before continuing. "For many days you have watched us in silence. You have felt fear, confusion, and perhaps even anger. I understand why. From your perspective, a species you once considered small, quiet, and harmless suddenly disappeared, only to reappear with a fleet larger than any you have seen before. I do not blame you for your fear. In your place, I might feel the same." Vorn glanced nervously at Thess, who kept her eyes fixed firmly on the screen. "But I want you to understand," Elena continued. "We did not build this fleet to threaten you or anyone else in this galaxy. We built it because we discovered a danger, one hidden carefully at the edge of our solar system, watching us for years, waiting silently for the right moment to strike." A murmur rippled through the hall, though no one interrupted. "This danger was not part of your council," Elena explained. "It was a separate power, one none of you had encountered before, hidden beyond the light of your own worlds. We do not yet know their full intentions, but we know they were patient, cautious, and clearly planning something far larger than a simple attack on Earth alone. She paused again, letting the weight of her words settle across the galaxy. We chose silence not out of fear but out of necessity. If this unknown enemy realized we had discovered them and understood we were preparing to defend ourselves, they might have attacked immediately before we were ready. We could not risk that, not just for our own survival but for the safety of every species who might one day face the same threat. Tess closed her eyes briefly, finally understanding completely what she had suspected all along. We captured your diplomats and scout ships not out of hostility, Elena continued, but to protect our secrecy during this critical time. Every ship we captured remains safe, unharmed, and will be returned to you immediately, along with a full explanation of everything that has happened. As if on cue, dozens of screens throughout the hall flickered briefly, displaying live footage of Ambassador Kell, alive and unharmed, sitting calmly aboard a human vessel, along with several other captured scout ships and their crews, all safe and clearly being treated well. A quiet sigh of relief passed through parts of the hall as familiar faces appeared, safe and unharmed, exactly as Elena had promised. We understand, Elena said, her voice steady and firm, that trust, once broken, is not easily repaired. We do not expect immediate forgiveness, nor do we ask for it today. But we ask you to understand this clearly. Humanity did not build this fleet to conquer, or dominate, or threaten anyone in this galaxy. She paused once more, her eyes steady and calm as she delivered her final words. We built this fleet because we learned, through hard experience, that peace without strength is fragile. We choose peace, always, as our first path. But we will never again be a species easily ignored, easily dismissed, or easily threatened. Today, we stand not as your enemy, but as your equal, ready to help protect this galaxy from dangers greater than any single species can face alone. The message ended, the screen fading back to the calm, unmoving image of the human fleet, still silently holding position above the Council's most important system. For a long moment, no one in the hall spoke. The silence was heavier than any argument that had filled the room over the past several days. Finally, Vorn broke the silence, his voice quiet and uncertain, so different from his earlier anger. Do we believe them? Tess turned to look at him, her expression calm, though her eyes carried the weight of everything she had feared and hoped over the past several days. I believe them, she said simply. Everything about their actions from the beginning matches exactly what they've told us. They could have destroyed our ships. They could have ignored our diplomats, or worse. Instead, they protected them, waited patiently, and revealed themselves calmly without violence the moment they were ready. General Dork remained silent for a long moment, his earlier anger now replaced by something closer to quiet reflection. Finally, he spoke, his voice lower and less certain than before. If what they say is true, Dork admitted reluctantly, then perhaps we owe them more than fear. Perhaps we owe them gratitude for facing this unknown danger silently, without asking anything from us. Tess nodded slowly, relieved to hear even Dork's stubborn anger beginning to soften into understanding. Then let us respond, Tess said firmly, turning to address the entire hall. Not with fear or aggression, but with open hands. Let us welcome humanity properly, as the equals they have proven themselves to be. Aboard the Ascendant, Elena watched quietly as the Council's response finally arrived, not as a threat, but as a formal request for peaceful dialogue, welcoming Earth's fleet respectfully into Council space. Amara Singh stood beside her, relief clearly visible on her tired face. They believed us, she said softly, almost surprised. Elena allowed herself a small, tired smile. They believed the truth, she said. That's all we ever asked for. Dr. Webb approached from behind, holding a tablet with updated fleet reports. General, Council forces are standing down completely. No hostile actions detected anywhere along our fleet's position. Elena nodded, relief settling gently over her exhausted shoulders. After months of secrecy, sacrifice, and uncertainty, humanity had finally taken its place clearly and openly among the stars, no longer hidden, no longer dismissed as harmless or unimportant. She turned to look out at the vast fleet surrounding her ship, thousands of vessels representing the tireless effort of millions of people back on Earth, each one playing a part in this incredible achievement. "We did it," she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "We're finally standing where we belong." Word of humanity's true intentions spread quickly across the galaxy, calming fears that had spread rapidly during Earth's silence. Smaller species who had once feared for their survival now spoke openly of relief and gratitude, grateful that Earth's silence had not meant destruction, but protection. On Yessa Prime, old Orin stood once again with his grandchildren, watching as human ships slowly began moving into more peaceful, cooperative positions above their world, no longer looking like a storm approaching, but rather quiet guardians watching carefully over the peaceful farmlands below. "Grandfather?" his granddaughter asked softly, watching the ships above with newfound curiosity rather than fear. "Are they here to protect us now?" Orin smiled gently, placing a comforting hand on her small shoulder. "It seems that way, little one," he said warmly. "Sometimes the things we fear most turn out to be exactly what we needed all along." Back in the council hall, Councillor Thess stood once more before the massive screen, now showing peaceful images of human and council ships moving calmly together, beginning what would become a new chapter of cooperation between Earth and the greater galaxy. Vorn approached her quietly, his earlier fear and anger now replaced by quiet respect. "You knew," he said simply. "From the very beginning, somehow, you knew they weren't a threat." Thess smiled faintly, her eyes still fixed on the peaceful scene unfolding on the screen before them. "I didn't know for certain," she admitted honestly, "but I understood humans well enough to trust their nature even during their silence. Fear often blinds us to the truth, Vorn. It's easy to assume the worst, especially when faced with something we don't fully understand." Vorn nodded slowly, looking thoughtfully at the peaceful fleet now visible clearly on the screen. "Then perhaps this is a lesson for all of us," he said quietly. "Fear rarely leads to wisdom." Thess glanced at him, a small, genuine smile forming on her face. "Perhaps," she agreed softly, "but today at least wisdom won." As the council hall slowly emptied, delegates leaving to spread news of this remarkable turn of events across their home worlds, Thess remained behind for a moment longer, staring quietly at the peaceful scene still displayed on the screen. Humanity, once dismissed as small, harmless, and unimportant, had proven itself capable of far more than anyone had imagined, not through aggression or conquest, but through quiet determination, careful preparation, and ultimately, calm honesty. And though the immediate crisis had passed, Thess knew clearly this was only the beginning of humanity's true role among the stars. The unknown enemy that had driven Earth to such extraordinary lengths still remained out there, somewhere in the darkness, watching, waiting. But for now at least the galaxy could rest peacefully, knowing that Earth, once silent and hidden, now stood openly and proudly among the stars, ready to protect not just themselves, but every species willing to stand beside them.